Welcome to episode 22 of Pulse of Physiology. I'm your host, Dr. Jim Davis, and today we'll explore the remarkable functions and control mechanisms of the endocrine system. The endocrine system is vital for maintaining homeostasis, growth, reproduction, and metabolism through the release of hormones. In our next episode, we'll delve into the relationship between the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, but for now, let's focus on the broad functions and control of the endocrine system. The endocrine system is a collection of glands and tissues that communicate over long distances to regulate physiological functions. This system relies on the cardiovascular system to transport these chemical messengers that need to travel these long distances. Now, these chemical messengers are known as hormones, and they travel through the cardiovascular system to target cells that are all throughout the body. Now, to better understand the endocrine system, you need to understand some critical terms. So first, we have a hormone. A hormone is a chemical messenger, just like a neurotransmitter. However, a hormone is secreted by a cell or group of cells into the bloodstream, and so they exert their effects on distant target cells. Because these will go all throughout the bloodstream, they only have to have low concentrations to exert their effects. In other words, a small amount of hormone causes big changes, whereas a neurotransmitter requires a high concentration. Then we have an endocrine gland. And this is a gland or organ whose primary function is to secrete hormones, such as the thyroid gland, the pituitary gland, the pancreas, etc. Then you have endocrine tissues. And these tissues are part of an organ that releases hormones, but they have other primary functions. For example, the kidney has endocrine tissue that releases hormones, but that's not its main job. Finally, we have target cells. And these are cells equipped with specific receptors for a hormone, and it enables that cell to respond to that specific hormone. Now, ultimately, the endocrine system plays a central role in maintaining homeostasis, such as regulating blood glucose, calcium levels, and water balance. It's also involved in growth and development by releasing hormones such as growth hormone to coordinate physical development. The endocrine system is important for reproduction as well, and it helps control reproductive cycles, fertility, and secondary sexual characteristics. The endocrine system is also highly involved with metabolism, where the rates of energy production and utilization are adjusted via hormones like insulin and thyroid. Finally, the endocrine system is important for stress response. The endocrine system can activate the fight or flight response through hormones such as cortisol and epinephrine. Now, as we've mentioned, the endocrine system is a communication pathway just like the nervous system. And so they both regulate bodily functions, but they differ in their mechanisms and time courses. The nervous system uses neurotransmitters, which are also chemical signals, but they send signals along neurons, and it's a direct connection. And so these responses are immediate, but they're short-lived. The endocrine system, on the other hand, uses those chemical messengers called hormones that are transported throughout the bloodstream. As a result, these responses take longer to occur, but they end up being longer lasting. So consequently, hormone secretion is tightly regulated by various stimuli and feedback mechanisms. When it comes to the stimuli for hormonal release, there are three primary types of stimuli. You've got humoral, neural, and hormonal. Now, humoral stimuli occur when there are changes in blood ion or nutrient levels, such as calcium levels triggering the release of parathyroid hormone. Then you've got neural stimuli, and so in this case, a hormone is released due to signals from the nervous system, such as the sympathetic activation of the adrenal medulla. Finally, we have hormonal stimuli. And so in this case, hormones stimulate the release of other hormones. So for example, hypothalamic hormones ultimately control the release of pituitary hormones. Now when it comes to hormone secretion, this gets back to feedback mechanisms. So you have negative and positive feedback loop. So with negative feedback, just as a quick refresher, these feedback loops maintain homeostasis by counteracting changes. For example, insulin from the pancreas lowers blood glucose levels, while glucagon, also from the pancreas, increases blood glucose levels. Then we also have those positive feedback loops. And if you recall, these amplify change to push a process to completion. For example, oxytocin increases uterine contractions during childbirth. Now, understanding the endocrine system is critical for diagnosing and treating disorders such as, but not limited to, diabetes mellitus, which is caused by insulin deficiency or resistance, ultimately leading to high blood glucose levels. Then there are thyroid disorders such as hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism, which both affect metabolism but in different ways. And then there are adrenal disorders. So imbalances in cortisol can lead to conditions like Addison's disease or Cushing's syndrome. So let's summarize with our 4 key takeaways. First, the endocrine system uses hormones to regulate long-distance communication in the body. Second, its function includes maintaining homeostasis, regulating metabolism, and coordinating growth and reproduction. Third, hormone release is controlled by humoral, neural, and hormonal stimuli, as well as negative and positive feedback mechanisms. And fourth, and finally, the nervous system and endocrine systems complement each other, with differences in speed and duration of responses. And so that's all for episode 22 of Pulse of Physiology. I hope this episode has deepened your understanding of the endocrine system's essential functions and control mechanisms. Join me next time for episode 23, where we'll explore the relationship between the hypothalamus and pituitary gland. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and stay curious.